Hello, everybody. Initializing live stream. Here we are. It's the 10th of March, 2024. It's Sunday. My name is Carey Holzman. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in. And as you can see, a different streaming computer is in place. This is the 7950 X3D we built. And given it a trial run, hopefully the audio and video look the same as they have. What else can I tell you? Just trying to do a little rearranging here in Studio B. Been working the last few days and completely sore because I've been moving a lot of stuff and I'm nowhere near done. But hey, this mess wasn't made overnight, so I don't expect it's going to be cleaned up overnight. But I am trying to get things a little better organized here, and so I actually have a different rack showing up. This rack isn't right, so I got to wait till that shows up, and then I have to take all this down and do it again. But that's okay. It'll be worth it. Let's see. Daylight saving time took effect last night or early this morning. So please know going forward, we are on at 1 o'clock Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time until the fall. Let's take a look here in the chat. Say hello to everybody. I assume video and audio is looking good. And I guess I'll put my glasses on and say hello to, well, there's Marlena. Abdul Azim Patel renews membership, now a member for 22 months. He says, hello all. He says hello to Mark Gaines, our friend in Northern Ireland. He says, hope all is well. There's Jeff Adams and Mortaunt, Ron Barnish and Jonathan, Thomas MacT, Gil Garcia, Troll Mick Trollington. Our friend Mark Gaines, also a member for 22 months, renews membership. Says hello, Carey, Marlena, and everyone in the chat. Welcome in, Mark. Garfield Rupe and Ben Laird. Ben joins us from Scotland, as does Martin Hogg and our friend Peter Laycock. Buster's out there somewhere. Say hello to Buster. Hello to George Armstrong and to Terry, Ghetto Fortnite, Eddie Casanova, Darloff, Dustin Fuller, Tim Saul, Darren Gilholm, and Winter Mute. There's Paul Connolly saying hello. Doman 2000. Marco Maelstrom joining us from Italy. Welcome in, Marco. He says, if you need somebody big and strong to help you move and stuff, count on me. I'll find someone for you. I've been putting Mitch to work. There's a weird video effect. Are you guys catching that? Is it strobing, or is it just me? As I've tried to implement this, there's really no way to test it until we go live. And Bajin Guy says, the streaming PC looks nice. Well, it should for what it cost. We built it here on the channel, and it was a fun build. I'm still not quite done with it. I want to change the rear case fan out to a larger size. And I've got some cable management, very minor cable management to do. And the back is off of it, which is... If you know anything about the streaming PCs I use, I never put the back on them because I typically need to get in there. Let's take a look here in the chat. I'm not seeing any comments with regard to any strobing effect. Today, the machine we're going to review, it showed up yesterday, and I want to be the first to review it. And it's from our friends over at AceMagic. There's been a lot of controversy with AceMagic, and I want to talk about it before we get into the review. We live in a cultural world today that the minute anybody hints at anything negative, the whole, well, not everybody, but a lot of people jump on a bandwagon and become outraged without taking the time to get any facts or understand the depth of what actually happened. And so there's a pro and a con to this. On the pro side of it, companies that say, you know, that's not a big deal are forced to have to make it a bigger deal than it really is, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Also, when the companies recover from these PR disasters, they're hungry for your business and they're willing to give you more for less. And we're going to talk about that today because of the bad PR they got, which wasn't necessarily their fault. One could argue about that, but well, let's talk about that. They had a couple of machines, 3 particular models that were infected with a browser hijacker and a 2-year-old virus, all easily removed with the Windows Defender. It was nothing, and it was all dormant, by the way. I mean, all you had to do was run Windows Defender, and it would have cleaned it up. But don't let the facts get in the way. Every single content creator who did a hit piece on AceMagic never told their side of the story. One particular creator I sent the AceMagic response to, and they decided not to include it in their video. So, and then that person went and ordered another AceMagic because in their private conversation with AceMagic, they said, the free unit we sent you to review was impacted by this, but any units you buy are not. So he went and he bought one, and it was clean, and he still was outraged. Like, the whole point of him buying it didn't match his agenda. And so therefore, rather than reassure everybody it's okay, he just went right back to what he was doing, and it was very unprofessional. It was very, very emotional, and it was not logical. It didn't cover facts on both sides. He only covered his perspective, and despite giving the facts, he ignored the facts that went against what his message was. The unfortunate thing about the internet is clicks generate revenue. So if I can put a piece together that's outrageous, it doesn't have to be factual. There's no downside for me to lie to you. If I tell you that AceMagic is actually owned by Microsoft, that is a complete lie, but nothing can stop me from telling you that. There's no ramifications for me. Nobody's coming after me, nobody's shutting me down, and if I title that on my video and it generates 3 million views and everybody starts believing it's true, that is the state of the world we live in, and it's up to each and every one of us to not just be so easily gullible and outraged. But I mean, that's what you like to do. Don't let me get in your way. So why wasn't this necessarily AceMagic's fault? We live in a world where corporations routinely contract out parts of their business. If you buy a car from Chrysler or Ford or Toyota, JCI Controls makes most of the interior. Chrysler and Ford don't make their own seats, neither does Toyota. In fact, the company that makes the seats for all 3 manufacturers is called Johnson Controls. They've been making the seats for cars for years. You go, well, Carey, how come the seats are so much more terrible in this model than in that manufacturer? Because that manufacturer is paying more to Johnson Controls. This other manufacturer wants to pay less to keep their car price down, and so the interior is not as well made. But it's the same manufacturer of many of those interior components. The car makers don't make those parts anymore unless it's maybe Tesla makes their own stuff. But the same is true with Amazon. And you can Google, do your own research. If you get hit by an Amazon truck, an Amazon delivery truck, one of those, trucks that drive around the neighborhood, not the big 18-wheelers, but the little delivery trucks, say you get into an accident, you're not dealing with Amazon. Now, despite the fact that the truck says Amazon, the driver's wearing an Amazon uniform, that is not Amazon. That is an Amazon local delivery service. And those are contracted out, not only in the United States, but in several countries. And if the local delivery service that Amazon hires a driver who hits you with their car, it's not Amazon's car, your insurance has to go through the LDS, through the local delivery service. Amazon says, we got nothing to do with that. And you're like, but your name's on the van. Yeah, well, we hire them, but they're a fully independent contractor, and all they do is deliver our packages in this regional area. We have thousands of them all over the world, and they're responsible for their own insurance and hiring their own drivers and doing their background checks. It had nothing to do with us. Here in the city of Phoenix, there was somebody took a picture of a local bus driver, city bus driver, texting on his phone or doing something on his phone while driving the bus full of passengers. So they wrote to the city of Phoenix and complained to fire this guy. The city of Phoenix said, he's not our employee. We hire drivers for our buses through a contracting agency. So we'll let the contracting agency, see this picture, and ultimately it's their decision what they want to do. And obviously, if the city of Phoenix doesn't like their answer, the city of Phoenix can go to another contracting agency that can provide drivers for them. It's almost a way of averting any liability, and it's almost every single manufacturer in the United States does this. So what happened to AceMagic was they went out to a contractor to provide them with their operating systems and drivers and configuration for their mini PCs. Seems pretty normal, right? It gets done, they test it, everything looks great, and they start rolling it out. They say, okay, let's go. At some point during that rollout, some moron of an employee working at this contractor decided to put on a 2-year-old virus and a browser hijacker. It didn't really know what he was doing. And the folks at AceMagic didn't think they should, periodically do a quality control sample. That's different now. The bottom line, it was a 2-year-old virus. It's easily removed with Windows Defender. And AceMagic has acknowledged it and given you step-by-step instructions so you can just simply remove it yourself. It's no big deal. You don't need to spend $200 to mail the thing back to China, be without it for 6 or 8 weeks while they clean it for you. You can do it yourself. And furthermore, it was only 3 models that were affected out of, 20 that they sell. And of those 3 models, only a few of them were infected. It was a particular batch. So it's very easy to remove it. AceMagic has been very forthcoming about it. And I feel bad for them because this could happen to any large manufacturer. And I'm sure as a result of this, they're going to step up quality control spot checks. And they've replaced that contractor. They won't use that contractor ever again. Whatever amount of money they were making from that contract, they just lost all that business because of this one employee that has nothing to do with AceMagic. This goes on in the industry at all times. Samsung's TVs were spying on you. They were listening to everything you say. Sony had discs that had viruses on them. Acer had computers that had viruses shipped on them. This happens every single time a company a big manufacturer gets lax on their own quality control spot checks. You get too comfortable and we all get outraged. And then we forget about the Sony thing and we forget about the Samsung thing and we forget about, right? And so right now in February of, I guess it's March of 24, this is the outrage du jour. Well, you can use that to your benefit because they're heavily discounted and these things, well, they look really promising. I received this yesterday, this new AceMagic PC. And AceMagic has never paid me a dime. They're never going to pay me a dime. All right, I'm just standing up for the little guy who's getting abused while other people are kicking me for defending the little guy. You can kick me all you want, brother. I'm way tougher than you could possibly imagine. I don't even notice it. So I'm going to stand here and I'm going to speak justice the way I see justice. And if you absolutely are so dead set on being upset, then enjoy what limited time you have here on the planet. I do hope that you one day find happiness, because I wouldn't want to go through my life that way unless it was really justifiable. In this case, you can easily see how this has happened to numerous other manufacturers. And AceMagic is nowhere near as big as Samsung, Sony, Acer. You know what I mean? So the number of potential people affected were nowhere near as big. So to make a big deal out of it, like I said, on the pro side, it forced AceMagic to take it more seriously than they originally were. And as a result of that now, they're also offering deep, deep discounts to re-earn your trust. So there's kind of a good side. Now, rest assured, I opened this up last night and I updated it. It came with Windows 11 Home 22H2. I went ahead and put 23H2 on it and did a full virus scan on it. And you better believe there is no virus or malware or browser hijacker or Trojan anywhere on this. They are extraordinarily cautious right now, as you can imagine you would be if you were the victim of this scam, which is effectively what happened to them. Now, let's take a look at the website of what we're looking at today. First of all, if we go to my window capture, is it not working? Okay, as you can see, and we have a link to this in the video notes below, AceMagic is acknowledging the virus incident. They're explaining what happened. They have a return policy, a product retention policy, an exchange service, additional compensation, and reassurance of what they're changing to ensure this never happens again. I don't know what more people want, along with a tutorial that you can walk through that you can follow through click by click to ensure if you have an AceMagic that it's not infected, and if it is, that it will automatically clean it following these steps. It's way better than packaging it up and sending it back. A virus is just a piece of software. You just delete the software. It's not infected in the hardware of the machine. It's not in the BIOS. It's not in the firmware. It's simply a piece of software like Windows or like OBS. It's just not a big deal. Now, if you want to return it, they'll take it back. Looking at today's machine, what we've got is something new here. The F2A. Intel has dropped that whole Core i5, Core i7. That's gone now. So if you own a computer that's an Intel Core i something, congratulations, you own the previous generation of chips. Even if you just bought it today, it's old. What's new now are the new Intel processors that have neural processing units. So they have CPUs, GPUs, and NPUs. And that enables artificial intelligent workloads. Now, how that's exactly defined, I'm not exactly sure, other than rather than adjusting and measuring computer performance through gigahertz, we're going to start with a new measurement. I don't know what they're going to call it yet, but it's effectively like a CPU that has intelligence. So rather than how fast the CPU is, it'll be rated on how smart it is. And the difference is, just because something's fast doesn't mean it doesn't take an efficient route to get to where it's going. When something is intelligent, it can sort of predict what you're going to do before you do it and already have it done, so that when you click the button, you as a human being feel like that was way faster than your old computer. Even though it may run at a fraction of the speed, it's more intelligent. So this is the first generation from Intel of these new chips. And they make two versions of this mini PC, one using the Intel Ultra 7 125, 125H, and one using the Ultra 7 155H. And we're still measuring in gigahertz. All right, don't worry about that. That change is coming. I don't know when, but rest assured, measuring computers based on speed, gigahertz, that's going to be like your children's children are going to be like, I can't believe that's how you guys used to think stuff was powerful. You just looked at raw power and not actually looked at the performance or the calculative performance. So we have two versions of the chip. And if we scroll down, we'll see it also comes with Wi-Fi 7. Let me go over to one more tab here, and we've got the pricing structure. Now, the other site said, there's a typographical error there. It said Ultra 7, and the other one said Ultra 7. Well, instead of Core i7 and Core i5, there's an Ultra 5 and an Ultra 7. Core Ultra. Intel Core Ultra 5 is a Core i5. Intel Core Ultra 7 is a Core i7. The lower number, 125, is the 5. The higher number, the 155, is the 7. And of course, they're priced differently depending on which model you're buying. These are equipped super nice, 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte either way. All right, so they're really well equipped. They're a little bit larger than a regular mini PC. Maybe 6 inches by 6 inches instead of the typical 4 inches by 4 inches. We'll get it out of the box. We'll take a look at it. And we're going to start seeing more AI enhanced software, including the big 24H2 update for Windows 11 is going to add a bunch of AI features that, if you have an NPU on your processor, are going to blow you away with what they're able to do. And let's see, scrolling, a little more information here. We've got 2 DDR5 modules that are upgradable, a 1 terabyte NVMe that's upgradable. Bluetooth is now at 5.5. I didn't even realize. I thought 5.3 was the latest. Here's the difference between the Ultra 5 and the Ultra 7. We're reviewing the Ultra 5 today. That's what they've sent us. And of course, they've got some examples of performance in video editing for Premiere Pro and Lightroom. And what else are they talking about? 20 billion parameters. I don't know. AI visual. So this is just the beginning of AI enhancements to popular software packages, and that will be expanding in the coming months and years ahead. Something called artificial voice, which can change your voice, I guess, when you're gaming, for synthesis, conversion, and cloning, and it can all do that. Somehow through AI, it handles this very seamlessly without taking a big hit on your CPU or RAM resources. 8K video output, again, a little difference there with Wi-Fi 7 and Wi-Fi 6. Windows AI, which includes Windows Copilot, AI Paint, AI Photo, and AI Clipchamp, are just the beginning. These are the introductions of the AI enhancements to Windows, and more will be coming. With regards to ports, as you can see, we've got a USB 3.2 Gen 2 times 1. That's this little Type-C port. USB 3.2 Gen 1. There's 2 of them. We've got a 3.5 millimeter audio adapter with a power button. Nothing on the sides, but on the back, we have 2 more USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 2x2. That means there's 2 of them. We've got 2 HDMI outputs. We've got our LAN input, which I believe is a 2.5 gig, and we've got a round barrel connector using a standard 19 volt, 6 amp power adapter. In the box, we've got the mini PC, instructions, and HDMI cable, VESA mounting bracket, and our power brick. All right, that is what we're looking at today. Are you excited? This is the first of a brand new generation, and I am happy to introduce it to you and to be the first web exclusive review of this product. You're going to see a lot more of these Core Ultra chips as everything starts moving over to AI base, and people who don't have it are just going to have PCs that are slower, regardless of how fast your CPU is. Once you start getting that NPU, things speed up in ways you can't quite comprehend until you experience it. So let's open up the box. And let's see what we got in here. Hey, there's Luke Greenia in our chat, now a member for 22 months. He says, and the fun time just keeps flying by. Right on. Thank you, Luke. Alhaj Tepej, a member for 15 months, renews his membership today. Thank you, Alhaj. Zach Bischoff, a member for 14 months today, said, hello, Carey and all. My membership birthday is today. That's, hey, right on. Welcome in to Dave Batt as well. A happy birthday to Gary McGraw. And yeah, let's see what's in this box here. Thanks, you guys. So here's what it's going to look like when you unbox it. Now, there was a plastic wrap around this, it's keep it from getting scratched up or anything in shipping. And you'll see it's a little bit larger than your average mini PC. And I'm going to bring it up to the camera and hold it so you can get a better idea of the size. Looks like some rubber feet have to be removed, I'm going to guess, to get to the screws, and likely everything he wants under there, I'm guessing. But before we do that, let's see what else we got in the box. So you open up the box, we got our documentation. We have this box that says accessories. In this accessories box, we're going to have our power adapter, our VESA adapter, the screws for the VESA adapter, the HDMI plug, yeah, this looks just like a Nook adapter or even a laptop power supply. It's going to use a standard PC power cable, not the Mickey Mouse cable. HDMI, VESA bracket, screws for the VESA bracket. All right. That's pretty much all there is. Some people have asked, what's the size limitation of the internal SSD? Sometimes these mini PC manufacturers will say up to 2 terabytes supported. There's no such thing. as a size limitation on an SSD, maybe 20 years ago. What the manufacturers are doing is when they print up their documentation, you know, the biggest SSD you could buy was 2 terabytes. So they go, well, you could put up to 2 terabytes in there because nothing was bigger. They probably shouldn't have said anything at all, because if there's a 4 terabyte, an 8 terabyte, there's no such storage limitation that's ever existed on any computer in the last 20 years. Now, you could have fitment issues if there's chips on both sides. You could have heat-related problems if the chip gets really, really hot and you don't have the cooling for it. But with regards to compatibility, there's no such thing as a storage drive that's too big. That hasn't existed for well over 20 years. I don't know why manufacturers do that. It's just creating confusion in the marketplace. When I put a 4 terabyte in this, you can put a 4 terabyte, whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Laptop, desktop, mini PC. If it'll take whatever the drive is, SATA, NVMe, then whatever the capacity is, it'll work. It's really the way it's always been for 20 years. I think it's weird I have to explain it, but what are you going to do? All right, let's give it power. And we'll plug in our HDMI cable, and we'll plug in our Ethernet adapter. I need power. I need some power. And I need a keyboard and a mouse, and then we can turn this bad boy on and see what we're in for. Okay. Let's plug that in right up here. Ben Laird with a 2-pound contribution says, if I win the lottery, I will keep up with tech, right? That's how it's always been my whole life. All right, let's switch over to this HDMI input right here, and hopefully I've hooked all the cables up right over here. We're about to find out. I'm going to minimize myself. Well, not minimize, but put myself in a corner. This, and let's turn it on. Now, there is a little power light that comes on here on the front. And get an idea of our boot time. Now, all I've done is updated. I've not done the optimizations or anything, or taking off the software that I don't like, like the LinkedIn and stuff like that come with Windows 11. I usually uninstall that stuff. I hope this is not in 4K mode. If this went into 4K mode, my capture card can't see it. Just have that plugged in. Hey, there it is. I think when I picked it up and turned it, I pulled the cable. So let's do this. Let's get rid of camera 1 because you don't need to see me anymore, right? And let me go full screen over here on my side. Let's take a look at these performance specifications. Verify what we've got here under System. Okay, there's our processor, the Ultra 5 125H. We have 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM. Windows 11 Home. It did ship with 22H2. I put 23H2 on it and went to Windows Update to make sure that we have all of our updates. If we look in the device manager, we can see that we have under networking options, we have our Bluetooth device. We have an Intel Wi-Fi 7 adapter and a Realtek Gaming 2.5 gig Ethernet controller. So no slouch there. If I hit Windows Update, we should see that we're all current. Now, the computer is extraordinarily quiet, but when you really start pressing it, you will hear the fans turn on. It's not crazy loud or anything, but you'll clearly know it's on. And it looks like we just have a security update here for the antivirus. And so for those of you who are concerned, and nothing wrong with being concerned, but don't let fear drive your life. If you have worries about viruses, you can always do a scan. We can choose scan options. And if you want to be super thorough, you can do an offline scan. An offline scan means the system will reboot. And in case something is running within Windows that's avoiding detection. Some viruses are very clever and they'll move around as they're being detected. So if you can essentially scan in DOS mode without any files in use, this is how you should be scanning your computer for viruses. With any decent antivirus should be able to scan outside of Windows. So whether you're on Windows 10 or 11, it should be the same. And as we reboot the machine on this second attempt, it should start the virus scan in what is we would refer to as a DOS mode, although Microsoft would argue there's no DOS, but you call it whatever you want. And we're going to scan the entire drive. We're going to make sure that everything comes up clean so you don't have to take my word for it. And in the meantime, while we're waiting, if you have any questions for me, I'll do my best if I know the answers to provide them. Planet Cryos with $2 says, on a Sunday, wow. Yeah, that's right. Sometimes you got to move with the tech. And I want exclusive content. I want to be able to provide you guys with unique content that you won't find anywhere else, but you will find copycats as we move on. You'll see other content creators just copying me. But I want you to be able to know, you saw it here first, that I'm the original. Everybody else is copying. I don't care. I don't mind if they copy me, but you might not realize where some content creators are getting their ideas for content. So if you want to go to the source, you're here. So thank you for joining me and for being a part of this really amazing community and enabling me to be able to explore these various ideas I have and concepts for videos that apparently other content creators like enough to duplicate. And I guess, you know, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So in this case, we're on a Sunday because I want to make sure I'm out there first and everybody else can, you know, do it their way. Doesn't mean they're doing the same kind of review or they're doing the same kind of video. They always put their own twist on it, and that's always welcome. It's not like they're doing a word for word duplication, but oftentimes the video concept is what's taken. And that's fine. I borrow video concepts from others myself. Let's see. Nick Caffrey with €2 says it's an interesting machine. Got to check the euro price. Absolutely. Check out the website. We've got links on the video notes, of course. Mara has put links for you guys. And Thomas MacT says, you're doing great, Carey. Thank you, Thomas. And then maybe after this scan, maybe we shut it down. We'll open it up, put the overhead camera on, take a look on the inside. I'm kind of curious. Kind of curious what it looks like inside. Wow, that scan was quick. So I think we're rebooting and we'll go back into Windows with our scan results. I hear the fan just a little bit. And I'm not sure what our delay is right now. Let me go back over to put me on the screen just so you know you haven't lost the signal. I don't know if I'm having a cable problem, because that shouldn't take that long. Let me just, I have this terrible habit of not plugging cables in all the way. And I'm a little too gentle with them and they need a little bit more force. And that's usually, I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that kind of stuff. So people talk about, you know, running Prime 95 and stuff like that on these. And you should know that doesn't really apply anymore. What's happening now, and especially with the AMD platform, if you haven't watched some of my previous content, is the BIOSes are now overclocking the chips regardless of what cooler you have. So in the BIOS, by default, it's going to run the chip at the until it reaches Like in many cases on AMD chips, it's going to hit 95 and it will never hit 96. And it doesn't matter if you put a $6,000 cooler or a $60 cooler or the stock cooler, it's always going to run at 95 maximum or 95.9 when it's under load. And AMD says, hey, that's normal. I'm upset because I've been switching around coolers. I went through 3 or 4 coolers and I couldn't cool this darn AMD chip down. And come to find out, the default in the BIOS is to allow that chip to get to 95.9 degrees under any cooler, under any load, and never exceed it. That means you can run Prime 95 all day on, doesn't matter. It means you can put a liquid cooler on it, doesn't matter. Obviously, with a liquid cooler, it's going to get hotter, it's going to go faster before it reaches the 95.9. However, it probably isn't much that a human being is going to notice unless you're some kind of an extreme user. Intel's doing something similar. My argument is that I feel as though the BIOS default should be to run the stock numbers, not the overclocked. So with AMD, it's called Precision Boost Overdrive, and it's overclocking the chip. That's why overclocking is dead. It's already doing it for you by default. Why do the manufacturers overclock the chip by default? Because they want you to get better numbers and reviewers to see better numbers when you use their motherboard. It's all a manipulation. It's all there to trick you and fool you. And it will drive you mad when you try and cool it. All you have to do to cool it is go into BIOS and tell it don't run any hotter than 85, for example, and it'll never run hotter than, it'll never hit 86. Change it to 75. Every time you do that, you're leaving some performance on the table. So I imagine, and I haven't tested, that if we run Prime 95 on this or any current CPU model moving forward, whether it's Intel or AMD, the default is likely it's going to lock in at a certain temperature, and no longer do I have to be worried if it exceeds 85. Because now I know if the BIOS is set to hit 95, then everything's fine and it'll never go to 96. That's still 4 degrees headroom before thermal junction. And that's just how it is now. Welcome to the future. It's very strange. I can't say I'm a big fan, but it also means all that testing's pointless now. That this is not 2022 anymore. And the 7000 series Ryzens do it, the 8000 series Ryzens do it. I can't tell you which Intel models other than the latest ones. And instead of Precision Boost Overdrive, which is a trademarked AMD name, Intel has their own trademarked AMD name. And the darn motherboard manufacturers are turning all this on by default, which I think is stupid. I think it should be called Turbo and the user should have to turn it on. But be that as it may, you can rest assured that that's all in the past now. That sort of testing is pointless. What is it? Thermal velocity boost? Is that what they're calling it? I don't know what Intel calls it. Now, whether or not this specific unit has that, I would imagine it does. So all that kind of testing moving forward is completely pointless. The chip's going to reach whatever the thermal setting is in the BIOS by default, and you'll never be able to exceed it no matter what you do, except go in the BIOS and change it. You can waste a lot of money on coolers and a lot of time trying to figure this out. And it's just a couple of key presses, and that's how they design them these days. So I hope if there's anything you get from this video, it's this obsession with cooling is now obsolete. Then obsession with overclocking is now obsolete, with some exception to the extremists who will delid and do some crazy stuff. But for regular home lab users and enthusiasts, that's all done. That's all last decade. Everything moving forward is doing this all automatically. And as we move into AI, we're going to also, as I mentioned, measure performance based on how smart a chip is versus based on how fast a chip is. And we're changing. We're moving into this new type of technology. It's a pretty cool time to be alive to witness it. And 10 years from now, when we look back on how we were measuring performance on regular old CPUs, the people who are 10 years old today that are going to be 20 years old in 10 years are going to look at us like, how could you have been so simple-minded? How could you only care about one simple measure? And that's going to be obvious to them. But for us, we will see this evolution and this change. And it's going to be, for some people, very difficult to let go of what they learned. It's easier to train people who don't already have preconceived ideas in their heads, because you've got to defeat that preconceived idea, and some people don't want to let them go. This is what I learned, damn it. Yeah, that was what you learned, and that was the way we used to do it. But we don't do it that way anymore. We don't defrag hard drives anymore. We don't do a lot of things anymore. We don't partition, multiple partitions separating programs and data anymore. There's no practical reason to do it, and yet people will defend their they'll defend what they learned 20 years ago. And what their argument is I refuse to accept the new way of doing things because the way I've always done it has worked for me. That's why some people may still have landlines, don't own a cell phone. That's why some people refuse to adopt to the changes. Netflix was sending DVDs up until September. They shut that down. There's still Redbox, why would you rent a standard definition DVD when you could be watching it in HD, not have to go to the store, but you could sit on the couch and push a button? Some people refuse. And that's okay. It's okay. But that's not what keeps this channel moving. We're not living in the past. If you want to live in the past, we have videos going back to 2008. Enjoy. If you want to keep up, I'm here to help you keep up. And even I'm struggling to keep up. So it's not like we're getting that far ahead. We're just keeping up. You don't want to keep up? Don't bother yourself, all right? If you still like cooking with lard and smoking cigars, you know what? Have at it. I hope to think that as a society, as a human race, we've evolved to move beyond some unhealthy behaviors, as well as educate ourselves to keeping up with, gosh, there's so much cool technology out, whether it's LED light bulbs that are more energy efficient, they last forever, they're brighter. I could go on and on. Newer appliances, stoves, ovens, microwaves that are so much more water efficient, energy efficient. They don't use as much electricity. A dishwasher can wash your dishes using less water than you washing them by hand. But don't tell that to some people. They'll rather waste the water because they say their dishwasher doesn't work very well. Well, if your dishwasher's over 10 years old, you're probably right. But buying a new one, it'll pay for itself just through the money you'll save in water and electricity. But some people do not want to hear it, and that's just the way it's going to be. So I don't know which one of those people you are, but history will leave you behind. As the human race marches forward, they will not wait for you. If you choose to be left behind, no one's coming back for you. This is the harsh reality that I've learned in life. You can keep up or don't. It's your choice and it's your freedom. Now, let me go back over to this machine here for just a second, because I want to see if you guys have any questions, if you want me to check anything. Remember when Windows was ready to shut down and it would tell you, you can turn off your computer now? Do any of you still have to manually shut off your computer when Windows says it's okay to do so? Remember those days? It wasn't that long ago. We've moved on since then. Let's see, scroll. Bajan Guy says the Ultra 7 version is only $100 more than the Ultra 5 version. There's some great discounts. Again, AceMagic is hungry to give you a discount and to earn back your trust, right? So that's the good thing about this negative PR event, is it can benefit you if you don't want to, be part of the torch and pitchfork mob that are unthinking, and you just follow a group in a tribal, mindless, sheep-like behavior. But if you want to think for yourself, well, the mob and the sheep are all angry looking to the right. There's gold that you can be picking out of the hills on the left that nobody's paying attention to. And I feel like we're in that situation. There's a 40% off discount bringing this machine down to $660. That's a lot of machine for $660. Remember, we've got 32 gigs of RAM in this bad boy, and it's DDR5. All right. Scroll. Looking through the chat room. G-Tech wants to know this company has a toll-free number for support. I don't think so. They're based in China, so you would email support. You wouldn't probably understand them on the phone if they did have a phone number, because their first language is probably Cantonese or Mandarin, and you would probably have a language barrier. If you'd like a number that you can call for support, there are companies like Simply Nook that will sell a machine like this for around $1,200. And that extra price you're paying is for that local support. Support is not free. So that the better the value, the better the discount, you're going to sacrifice some things. Just know that. Now, Luke shows they do have a phone number, although I've never called it and I don't know what would happen. And I would be concerned. Luke says their phone number's on their webpage. If anybody wants to try it out, the only time I've ever reached out to AceMagic for support is through email, because there's no accents in email. There's bad grammar and bad spelling, but there's no accents. And those accents can be very difficult, for me anyway, to understand what they're saying. But again, if you order from Simply Nook, they're based out of Texas. They have a machine like this for around, it's over $1,000, but it's higher labor cost, and it's US support, and it's US based, and all that costs more. So the product costs more. So if you want more, you can pay more. That's kind of the way I see it. You can't have everything and then pay nothing. You're going to get what you pay for one way or another. And AceMagic is discounting this a little extra in order to earn back your trust and to give you a reason to give them another shot. They want to make it such a good deal that it's going to be hard for you to say no to. They have customer service through WhatsApp. I mean, I know they do that. I've never used WhatsApp in my life. That doesn't mean I never will, but I don't see any point in it. I'm busy, and enough people have my phone number. It's not like I'm looking for another way to talk to people. Kind of have that nailed down for now. Now, Bajan Guy says, just went through and saving over $400 over MSRP. Yeah, $400. Gooden says it's such a simple unit. What would the need be of tech support? I don't know. Some people, let me go back to camera one. Some people are completely unrealistic and really have unreasonable expectations for what they're paying. And one example of this is Facebook Marketplace. I had an old big screen DLP television that was HD. And I said, $50, it's a 55-inch. It's heavy. Just get it out of here. Is that a smart TV? It's $50. No, it's not a smart TV. Is that 4K? It's $50. Is it still available? Yes, that's why it's on Facebook. And then, you never hear from any of these people. Well, I'll give you $20 for it. Hey, I got a better idea. Why don't you come over and kick me in the crotch? It is so maddening, the expectations people will have. Hey, would you like a shiny nickel? Oh, I don't know. Does it come with $1? So, not that asking if support is there. It's not like it's an unfair question. It's not. But what it reminds me of, what comes to mind is there is support, absolutely. Specifically an 800 number, they say there is, but I've never used it myself. If I had any support questions, I've always used email. I know they have WhatsApp. In fact, it says right on the front of the machine when I showed it to you, very clearly on the front of the machine, it says, there's your QR code for support through WhatsApp. If you're somebody who wants customized handhold service, it's available from Simply Nook, where they charge you more. If you would like a butler, it costs more than owning an Alexa. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you want those kind of things, you pay more for those. Most of us can't afford a butler or a nanny. So, we get by with whatever we can afford and make up the difference in the price by taking care of it ourselves. So, while having Alexa can be helpful, sometimes you still got to get off your butt and, answer the door. If you don't want to, you can hire a butler, but that's going to cost you a lot more than an Alexa. All I'm saying is have realistic expectations. And again, I don't know what you'd be calling support for. If you had a problem with the unit, you know, you can order these from Amazon. Amazon has a 30-day return policy. You could come here for help. We'll be happy to try and help. If something goes bad, maybe you got maybe your local delivery driver drop kicked it to your front door and it arrived damaged. No fault of AceMagic, no fault of the seller, but it's the delivery driver who just, you know, punted it over your fence. It's still under warranty and they're still going to cover it, whether you get a refund or a replacement, guaranteed. So they're a reputable company. They've been around a long time. They're just not as well known as Sony. If you want to pay the Sony tax, go buy a Sony. ASUS has a new Nook model out now, the Nook 14. It's going to be a lot more than this, but no, you're dealing with ASUS. And if that means something to you, then it'll mean it in your wallet and you'll pay for it. So these are a great value for a couple of reasons. One, they're not as well known. Two, because of the virus incident, they now are in a PR situation where they're hungry to earn your trust back. This isn't going to last forever. And then when AceMagic eventually becomes, well, let's put it to you this way. Back in the day, you could buy a very cheap, basic VCR, very crappy, very basic, got the job done, called Gold Star or Lucky Gold Star. And it was just the bottom of the barrel. Today, Lucky Gold Star is called LG, and they're one of the highest respected electronics manufacturers next to Samsung and Sony. But back in the day, it was considered cheap junk. But you can see they built up a reputation of quality cheap junk, and then it became cheap and not junk. And now many people consider Lucky Gold Star or LG to be a very reputable brand. As they become more reputable, the price goes up. So in any event, you can save some money right now if you're interested in ordering one, and everything's guaranteed. And if you have any issues, you can always reach out to me directly. I'm your stopgap. I'm your reassurance. I'm your peace of mind. And I can guide you through, you know, if you need to return it or you need to replace it and you're not quite sure how it's done, I can point you to the links you need. All right. So I don't want anybody thinking there's any trickery happening. There's no risk to any of this. So, I mean, not any more risk than anything else you buy. So let me go ahead and shut this off because I don't see any more questions. Frank Jimmy says, is this still available? All right. Let's see. Jason Willis said, we used to have to park hard drives. That's right. There was a DOS command called park. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to shut this down, and let's open it up and see what it looks like on the inside, and you can decide on the quality for yourself. Let's go back over here to the main desktop. I didn't see anybody asking any questions that you want me to check while we're in here. So if it comes to you later, I guess ask me later, because I'm going to shut it down, unplug it, and take it apart. Hopefully I can get it all back together again. And I'm joking, of course I can get it back together. It's designed to be opened very easily for upgrades. And we're going to start by just unplugging everything, including the mouse dongle there. We have these 4 rubber feet, and I've got my overhead camera I can plug in. So I'm going to just bring this over here. You know what, let me bring this down first, and I need to plug in HDMI cable. Geez, I hope I hooked this capture card up right. But in theory, this should work. Turn this on. One of these buttons turns it on. Yikes. Straighten that bad boy out right there. And bring it over this way. One-man operation, everything's live and unscripted. As a reminder, everything you see is real. I can't stop to correct any mistakes. This is how we shoot, because this is what it's like to be a real repair tech when a customer's looking over your shoulder with a repair. No pressure. Let's try close-up camera. Is that going to work? Sort of. Where are we? We're over here. So if I want to move this way, hang on. Hang on. Oh, let's turn it like that. I got to straighten this way. So weird. And then we'll zoom it in a little bit. Okay, so there's all our cables there. So I'm guessing, just looking in the bottom of this thing here, I see a little notch right there. And I'm going to guess that that's not on magnetically. But let me grab a little sponger tool and just check. I don't think it's going to be that easy. Here we go. Let's try this. Yeah, something's holding it in. So I'm going to guess screws have got to be underneath these feet, if I can figure out. I feel like there's a screw there and there. There's contact us information for people that were wondering about the support. And you can freeze frame that if you want that for a reference. And of course, it's all on the website. So I don't know why these feet don't come up. Those are really in there good. I feel like that really does not want to come out. And I don't know what these two holes are right here, but I can feel two holes underneath that sticker. I'm almost afraid to put any more pressure on it. So I'm going to just take a quick look in the manual just to verify. Let's see. Sometimes the manual has information and sometimes it doesn't. It's VESA mounting. In multiple languages. So that doesn't really tell us how to open it. And I do, I see this notch and I feel like, I feel like something's holding it in the corners. Again, I don't know what these things are right here. And I don't want to break it. But there's definitely something holding it in the corner. That is absolutely certain. But those rubber feet do not want to come up. Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why is there's a little indent in these feet? I am curious. Can we just poke through the feet? Maybe not. Being the first comes with some advantages and some disadvantages. But they've never made a PC they can keep me out of yet. And it ain't about to start today. Tell you that right now. I know these rubber feet come out one way or another. And I am pretty sure I am probably doing this the hard way. Yikes. Okay, well, it looks like I've broken the rubber foot off, which is no big deal, but there's a brass fitting underneath that. So I suspect the whole rubber foot just unscrews, because that's what it looks like. I told you I was probably doing it the hard way, right? And this is not to worry. I can always, I can reach out to AceMagic and ask them to send me another little rubber foot. But that's, that sure would have been helpful to know that 5 minutes ago. I told you, if you work too hard on something, you're probably doing it wrong. And I don't mind sacrificing this for the educational benefit of all of the viewers in the world. So we're just going to turn the whole rubber foot. Look at that. That is a good design. And we don't need any of these tools. That's 100% toolless. And prying up the rubber feet is only going to gouge this and rip the rubber feet. Whoopsie. Now you can take something and pry it up right here, you know, when you're not an idiot like me. And be careful, there's a little fan right here and a wire. And as you can see, we've got an M.2 that's made by Kingston. We've got our 2 sticks of DDR5 RAM, 16 gigs each. These are made by Kingston. Also Kingston. All right, so you can put 96 gigs of RAM in there if you want. Pop that bad boy back in there. We have another M.2 slot right here. But do keep in mind, you've got this cable that you might have to reroute to make another full-size M.2 install. There's no room for a 2.5-inch drive. I also don't see the Wi-Fi adapter. The Wi-Fi 7 is usually serviceable here. Now, obviously, we can take this cover off and get down a little deeper. So what the heck? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's remove the RAM because I'm not quite sure what might be in the way. And let's remove that screwdriver is not fine enough. I need a jeweler's screwdriver for this. Let's see. Take that off, set it there. Take that out, set it there. And then we've got a screw in each corner. This is very simple to get into, you know, once you do it the right way. I'm sorry, I got to crack myself up. All right, let's see. Somehow this lifts off. Now, I don't want to break this fan, so I'm going to just unplug it. But I'm glad it's just a fan and not the Wi-Fi antennas, because those are so easy to pull off of there. Now, this has to come up some way, somehow. Sure how yet. Bear with me for a second. I'm figuring it out. Is it the top that we've loosened? Don't know. I feel like the top is loose. We got a little Kensington lock port right there. Just wondering if there's some way I can kind of get something to push that lid up. Hey, there it goes. Kind of feel like something's still holding that bad boy in. So you can see the corners want to come out. There's something along the sides here. So I'm curious what I might be missing to lift this plastic cover. Now the plastic cover seems molded as one piece, and that would imply to me, I'm looking for a seam, and I don't see a seam here, and I don't see a seam here along the edge. So that suggests to me this would have to come out from the top, the way I was doing it. But it also felt like something else was missing. I mean, clearly, you wouldn't necessarily need to go to the other side of this, but you can see it's etched right up here on the top where it says DDR, DDR, M.2, M.2. Can you see the etchings? That's a nice touch. Now, everything that they can build, I can take apart. It just might take me a minute to figure the reverse engineering out on it. Take another look here. In many cases, when you're struggling, it's something simple and you're doing it the hard way. That's what I have learned. And I do feel like this looks like it's all one piece. This whole body feels like it's one piece. And it's the lid. Oh, look at this. See, that's what the screw was going into to hold. And then there's little clips. And I'm guessing you can take it with the gold or without the gold. It looks like it comes off either way. It looks like there's a little clip in here. You know, snaps in. So we can leave the gold piece in there or we can take it out. I'm going to go ahead and take it out. Hello. There's your other side right there. So your CPU is going to be located under here. The Wi-Fi adapter, on the other hand, I don't know where that is. Where did they hide it? Usually the dead giveaway are the antenna. I do see some tape right in that corner right there. And flipping this over. Clearly, it's not intended to have the Wi-Fi upgraded. So, you know, you're at Wi-Fi 7, which should be good for the life of the machine. And of course, you can always go through USB if there's a Wi-Fi 8 or 9. Because from the looks of things, it appears to me that the Wi-Fi is not changeable. Now, I wouldn't know for sure until I completely remove, like we could have a Wi-Fi adapter right under here for all I know. In fact, there should be nothing else holding this in. It should just pop out. Now, why they wouldn't give you access right here, I don't know why. We have to pull the plastic away from the, see how the ports kind of come through the holes here? So if we pull the plastic away, in theory, it should allow us to drop out of there. Something's holding me in on this side. Maybe possible we need to let this side out first. Something is holding us in here. You know what? I see two very tiny little screws. One right here. Maybe that's my problem. Don't use force, folks. I cannot explain it enough. You start using too much force, you start breaking things. So these are some pretty unusual looking self-tappers here. Now, maybe this will come out. Is that what was holding me in? Yeah. All live and unscripted. I'm figuring this out as a technician. And some things I figure out faster than others, but give me time. I get there. Don't you worry. Now, I do see some Wi-Fi antennas here. The Wi-Fi card is right there. And I think I'm hung up on a cable that's plugged in somewhere. I can also see the CMOS battery in there. I don't know why that's not more user serviceable, but it's located right under this. That's sort of strange. All they had to do was open that up a little wider. It's right next to the RAM. Now, you want to be careful when you pull this out because you can rip these antennas off. And I can tell you from experience that sucks. So that we've got another cable holding us on somewhere. Just can't find it. Oh, here we go. I lied. It's just the antennas that we've got to be worried about. So there you go. There's your two M.2 modules, your RAM sockets, your Wi-Fi adapter is replaceable, but you got to go through a lot of work to get it out. And then on the other side, you know, there's the back. There's the back of it. There's the top of it here. And we can set that back in place. I mean, first of all, nobody should need to get in it that deep. And if you would need to get in it that deep, it's actually not bad. Once you have some video reference you can watch, like mine, you won't have to guess. I'm doing the guessing for you so we can share this experience together. So we'll put that screw back in there. If I can find mount point, there it is. We can put that screw back in there. Here's our lid. And it does have this gold rim that just has these little square holes that clips in so that you can, I mean, if you take the lid off with it or without it, I obviously took it off with it for obvious reasons. And I don't know, let's see, if it says AceMagic, where's the power button? It's got to be that way, so that's got to go in that way, and it should click just like a snap-together model from the 80s. Just like that. And then we flip this around here, and I can see my antenna wires are sticking out now because I was not cautious enough when I put this back in. And apparently that's something you need to be aware of. I didn't know that 2 minutes ago. The good news is no big deal to pop this right back off. We'll just, I usually just find a little hole here that I can borrow. Be careful not to hit the heat sink, but we should be able to kind of pull back on this plastic a little bit. Should just pull right up. And once you get one side up, the rest of it should come pretty easily. Now, rather than force, prying it, you have to understand what's clipping it in are these edges. So if you pull away the edge, if you can get something to pull that away, and then it should just lift up. And then if you come around anywhere that it's sticking, and do the same thing, just pull the edge away, and it'll just pop right up without any damage. So when it comes to those Wi-Fi antennas, what I need to do is I need to take these two screws back out because I need to back this out entirely and pay a little closer attention to what I was doing with those Wi-Fi antennas because I wasn't considering them at all. I just thought they'd fall back into place, and clearly they don't. So not a big deal. But what I want to do is take a quick look here one more time at the position of these Wi-Fi antennas. Which are right here. And you can see how the Wi-Fi antennas are right next to the RAM. And we know we have that piece of plastic going this way over the Wi-Fi card. So when I put this back in, I just want to make sure that those Wi-Fi antennas don't double back on me like they did. And I'm just going to bring my finger in here. Don't pull on these cables very hard, just enough to kind of keep them aligned off to the side, or we can also push them underneath these front ports here. Looks like that may be the way they want them to go now that I'm really looking at it. If they were taped down, we would have ripped the tape up, pulling them out. Let me just flip this around now, and you can see it's much cleaner. Not a big deal. Basically, I ran the cables around the edge, around the corner. No big deal. I just didn't know. And now that I do know, I can share that with you as I learned it. We learned it together at the same time. All right, now I can put these screws back in. One will go here. And one will go here. Just like this. Okay. This is the front. All the ports are lined up. So with the AceMagic facing the front, we just lower that back down and it just snaps in. And then once it's snapped in, the 4 screws can go back in and that'll lock it in. Oops. Don't over tighten these. You don't want to crack the plastic. You definitely do want it to be tight. Ram. M.2. All being shown in real time without edits. Okay, once again, looking at which way was front on this. I think it was this way. Is it that way? Or was it this way? I can't remember if the contact us was towards the front or if the contact us was towards the back. I'm going to say the way this cable's bent, it looks like the contact us went that way. So we'll plug this fan back in. Try to plug the fan back in. It's got to go that way. I think that's how it went on. And then you just turn this feet back on. Now, I suspect if something isn't lining up, then maybe this goes the other way around. But it seems like everything's lining up fine. I just can't remember if this little indent This little indent right here. Well, that indent's in the back. Okay. I just can't remember if the contact us face the other way. I can rewind the video and look. And then there's my broken foot. Whoopsie. I didn't know. See, I'll take the hit so you don't have to. The good news is at least half of the foot's still there, so this shouldn't wobble or scratch the desk. It should be, yeah, you would never know. And we can plug it all back in. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it on, get a power light, and switch over to our HDMI input. And ba-boom, bada boom, bada bing, we are booted. That's a fast booting machine right there. And there you have it. That is the AceMagic F2A, and this is the Core U125 version. First look, YouTube exclusive. You're the first ones to see it. Don't you feel special? Now, of course, I'm happy to take your questions if you have any, if they're on topic. So do you have any on topic questions? I may not know the answer, but you're welcome to ask. Let's go back to camera 1 and let's see what the chat room's saying as I wipe the sweat off my brow of a live video of me not knowing what I'm doing. But I always figure it out. That's the important thing. Always learning, always looking for new experiences, and always wanting to share those experiences with you. So it's almost like you had the experience yourself. That's a much better lesson. It'll stay with you longer, right? When you do it yourself versus watching somebody else. So if you're watching me together, we're learning it together. It's almost like you just did it yourself. I bet you'll never rip one of those feet off. I'm just saying. I mean, if you do, I got no help for you. I don't know what to tell you. All right, questions. Are their onboard graphics better than the 780M? They are not. Intel's ARC graphics are getting better, but if you're into gaming, AMD's integrated graphics are superior. Is there a certain niche this system fits? Well, it's a powerful desktop replacement computer. So when it comes to any sort of productivity or general usage, you know, it's maybe even overkill for almost any type of work that would be done in an office, almost any kind of photo editing, video editing, anything other than AAA title gaming. Not that it couldn't do it, but I don't think you'd be happy with it. I've always told some friends who've asked me, you know, would this $300 computer be good for gaming? If you're spending under $1,000, it's not going to be a good gaming computer. It might be okay, but you're going to have to break $1,200 and higher if you want to do AAA titles in high resolutions, especially on multiple monitors, or even if you just want, you know, 90 frames per second minimum, which a lot of people do playing at, you know, even 2K, you're going to drop $1,200 minimum to get there. So gaming is a very expensive luxury. I still recommend a PS5 or an Xbox if you want to do that sort of thing. But to each their own. If you have that kind of money to throw around and that kind of time to just sit around all day to do something that makes no difference in reality. So you won the game. Now what? You know, who knows? Who cares? What difference did it make in the world? It's your own personal accomplishment that was only virtual and it's just like playing pretend. And you want to play pretend for hours and hours and hours every day and you want to pay good money to do it? I mean, it's great when you're 15 or 12 or 6. But as an adult, I find my entertainment comes from helping more people and running my business. And the challenges, the real life challenges I have to overcome are far greater than anything Donkey Kong ever presented me with. So, you know, once you win the game, there's no real world reward for that. It's all in your head. It's all pretend. And if that's the world you want to live in, don't let me stop you. But with regards to what this machine would be good for is basically anything but gaming. Whatever is up to your imagination within certain reasonable limits where you would need a workstation, for high-end CAD work or things like that. But, you could use this for audio mixing. You could use this for video editing, photo editing, especially with the AI-assisted versions of those software products. It could be quite impressive. So the question is, what do you need a machine to do? Because that would be a shorter answer than asking what this machine can do. It's sort of like, where can I go in this car? Well, wherever this road leads connects to every other road on this continent. So anywhere on this continent, could you be a little more specific about where you might want to go? Because if I told you all the places you could go, we're going to be here a long, long time. So where do you want to go? And I'll tell you if the car could get there. If you say Europe, yeah, it ain't going to work. But if anywhere on the continent, every road leads to every other road on this continent. So that's pretty incredible. This would be a great office computer right out of the bat. I can tell you that my office clients would be blown away by the performance, size, and quietness of this. And stock at 32 gigs and 1 terabyte, I wouldn't have to upgrade it. Right out of the box, I could deliver it to the client with just some software additions, Brian Madonna says, I'm not sure I would spend over $1,000 on a mini PC. Well, again, it depends what you're getting. It's not like you're going to spend $1,000 on a mini PC to buy a $100 mini PC. And if you're gaming, I've seen people drop $600 on a GTR 7 and then turn around and drop $1,300 on an RTX 4080 and then drop another $300 or $400 into the enclosure. And when you add all that up, that's a $2,000 gaming rig that won't perform as well as if you built it in a desktop, because that graphics card's being bottlenecked by however you're connecting it, whether it's USB Thunderbolt or OcuLink. You're not going to get 100% performance out of that graphics card because of that bottleneck. But people do it, and it's complicated. There's wires and it's messy. Just buy a desktop gaming PC. And if you're going to be that way, buy it pre-built, be done with it. They make them pretty nice now where you don't have to do all the work. And if your whole thing is gaming, you're probably not a very technical person. So, you might be, probably not. Let's see. Luke Greenius says he's got the CK10 AceMagic. He says it runs 24 hours a day. It only gets reboots for updates, and it streams Plex flawlessly. Oh, sure, that machine's overkill for Plex. Would you recommend replacing the NVMe with 2 Samsungs? No, because when you look, we haven't tested these NVMe's. Let's do that. But basically, any difference we're going to see in numbers are mostly placebo effect. When you're getting fascinated by these numbers, it usually doesn't mean a whole lot in reality. You're reaching a point of diminishing returns in performance. After you exceed 1,000 megabytes per second, most human beings can't tell that to 15,000 megabytes per second. It literally results in the file transfer speed differentials of milliseconds. It can only be measured through software. Without such measuring software, the human being can't sense it. Or they can sense, but they can't be precise with just how much faster it is. It's very subtle. Unless you're moving very large files, in which case moving large files would probably be moved externally, not internally. And you probably wouldn't be doing it that often because you'd run out of drive space very quickly if you're moving those files that large and you're that impatient. Now, if you wanted, as an emotional need, to change the drives out to Samsungs, you could. But as a logical financial investment, it would be a foolish waste of money, in my opinion. Now, if we take a look here at, let's see, I always throw VLC. I haven't done any of the configuration on this at all. Throw VLC on it. And while it's copying that, I like to put on the Microsoft PC Manager, and I like to put on Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer. So we'll throw that on there. And then under PC testing software, we will throw on Crystal Disk Mod, CPU-Z, Crystal Disk Info. So, that's fast. You think that's going to run any faster with the Samsung drive? You know what I mean? Like the bottleneck there is on the USB drive. So I don't know who you're doing this for or why you would do it, but you certainly could if you wanted to, but to me, it would be a waste of money. However, it's your own money and you absolutely can do it. Would I do it? Is that the question? No, I would not. Because no matter how fast or how slow this Kingston drive is, it's faster than you are. And by going any faster, it won't make any difference. You're still going to stay as slow as you are. So unless you're doing something that's a heavy IO task, I would be curious, first of all, what that IO task is to determine if it would make sense for you uniquely to upgrade. But overall, I wouldn't waste my money. So let's run DiskMark 64 and let's just take a quick look at what these numbers are. These Kingston drives are put in for a combination of budget and price. Performance and budget is what I meant to say. So at 3,777, we're on a very low-end Gen 4 drive here. In fact, I almost feel like that can't be right. I want to stop the test and try it. I feel like this should be over 4,000. Whoops, one more time. I feel like that should be over 4,000. But even if it weren't, you're not going to see the difference, except when running software like this. So if you want to get hung up, see, it got worse. If you want to get hung up looking at benchmarks instead of actually using the computer, I mean, that's on you. And, you know, obviously the Samsung drive is more money and it's going to be faster for sure. But would it actually be beneficial to you? I don't know. These numbers aren't right. Something's going on here that I'm wondering if the fan isn't running. I don't hear this fan running. Feel like maybe I didn't hook this fan up right and this drive is getting hot. So let's, before I go any further, let's go back to camera one here for a second. Let me just take this back off again real quick. I should have checked to see if that fan was turning because I don't hear it. And I don't like the way the connector went in. And that fan's got to keep that drive cool. That drive starts getting hot, your performance is going to start to, your I/O performance is going to start to tank. But you can see now that I know how to take this off, it's no big deal to get it apart. And then the other thing I'm worried about, oh, it's spinning. It's just really super quiet. Now it stopped spinning. Why is it? Is the cable loose? As I wiggle the cable, the fan's coming on and off. So I think I don't have the cable in all the way. Either that or it's temperature controlled. And my wiggling is just coincidentally causing this fan to turn. Let me just leave the feed off of it for a second. Those kind of numbers usually indicate heat-related slowness. Let me try it again. I want to see around 4,000. So we're back where we were at 3775. Now, if we take a look at the Kingston model that's in here, let's go back to, I have to go full screen here, and we can pull Crystal Disk Info up. And we can Google what the performance numbers of this drive are rated at. But getting hung up on this is really kind of foolish because in most cases, yeah, you can see we are running hot. And there's our number. You can Google that. I'm just wondering if maybe I don't have the, I just don't have that fan on right. You know, is it thermally coming on or is it only coming on because okay. Well, first of all, I got to be careful not to let the fan wire get in the way of the fan. I just want to make sure that that's turning. That the wire for the fan really needs to be taped down. And because I'm live, I don't want to mess with it too much. So I just want to make sure it's spinning. So it is turning on and off. Then that indicates to me, so I think it's being thermally controlled. I think it's coming on only when it needs to. And it's like right on the line. So it might be beneficial if you run into any heat-related issues to... Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. I don't think this goes on this way. The position of this fan may not be the right area. I might have the lid on backwards. Let's try that. I'd have to rewind the video and see if the contact us was facing the front or the back. I'm just going to put a couple feet in here just to hold it in, because you don't want this to block the airflow. That the feet are very important to lift it off the desk so we can get some air underneath of it. Let's see if that makes a difference. Let's go back to screen. It is saying it's hot, and that's definitely going to impact our performance. So what ends up happening, if you're doing a lot of data transfer, like in this case, when we run Crystal Dismark, if there's not good cooling in these mini PCs, then what will happen, and it also depends on the drive too, but you'll see the next number, like if we stop this and start it again, it'll just immediately drop in half because it got too hot. And if that fan is incorrectly, and I've oriented it right, which might be my fault, I didn't run this test prior, but look at how the speed has dropped. And that speed is dropping because of temperature. So, is it because I put the thing on backwards? I don't know. However, most people wouldn't be writing that much data all at once like that to generate that kind of heat. But you might be somebody who does. Now, there's a couple ways to deal with this. And one would be, first of all, let's shut this down. And let's go back over here to camera one. You know, it's a good thing you brought this up because I haven't really thought about it. When you have name brands like Kingston, usually, you know, your RAM's going to be good. It's not the fastest. Your solid state storage is going to be fine. It's not going to be the fastest. And it's also not very expensive. It's quite affordable. But when we look at, we take this drive out of here, what I do with my screwdrivers. Just so you know, if we take this drive out, and we put a little heat sink on it, and I mean, these things are sold Amazon, AliExpress, they're, I don't know, $6. I've got some around here somewhere. Bear with me, because Studio B has been cleaned up, and now I can't find anything. Some mini PCs come with these little heat sinks. What did I do with them? Where did I move the heat sinks, Carey? Hold on. I'm looking. It's live. I have a bunch of heat sinks somewhere. And they sell them in all different shapes and sizes. And got a ton of them, and I don't know where I... Be in my review stack. No, not in my review stack. I just moved them the other day. How can I think I have about 30 of them of varying design. Oh, here they are. Okay, let's see. We want just a basic, simple, cheap heatsink. These sell for nickels and dimes. I mean, they're super inexpensive. I just dropped my microphone. Hold on. Put that back on. So here's a it's live. Here's a very simple, passive aluminum, low profile heatsink that you can buy all day long. Amazon, AliExpress, they are under 10 bucks. They're very affordable. And instead of replacing the whole NVMe drive, and assuming we're going to be okay on the fan clearance, let's just find out what happens here. Oh, this is a little different. So basically what you get is you have these two halves, which I'm going to separate, which should easily separate, but it's had a rough life in shipping apparently. There it goes. So we have the top half and the bottom half. All right, this is the top. And then what we'll do is they give us 2 sticks of gum, but this actually isn't gum, it's thermal tape. And you may choose to put the thermal tape on the bottom and on the top, which is what they recommend. Now it's going to make the drive a little thicker, and that could hit our fan. Let's find out, because we can easily remove it if it doesn't fit. So we have these 2 pieces. Actually, they give us 3. And we're just going to peel one side of that off. Just like this. And we'll put it right into here. Yeah, I wish I would have run that test before I took it apart, because now I'm not sure that I'm not responsible for that. So before you blame AceMagic, it might have been me. All right, let's try this. This piece. Make sure it's clean. Might hang out a little bit, but that's okay. And then there's a little moon cutout shape where the screw goes through. And of course, we have to remove the top piece of tape. If you don't remove the tape, it's not going to do its job. And there's tape on each side of it. Now, this is just tacky. It's not sticky, it's tacky. If I take this tape off of here, okay, then I lay the M.2 drive in here with the, so we can go back a little bit more. Put it right about, just so it aligns with the back of the heatsink. And then we remove the tape off of here. And again, there's a cutout there for the screw that holds the M.2 drive down. Make sure that that's aligned. And then there's holes for screws that align right on each side of this. And so they've given us 6 screws, 3 for each side. And they even include a little screwdriver for just the occasion. It's part of the kit. These kits are super inexpensive. As long as you've got the clearance for it, It won't hurt you to have one. It won't make your drive run hotter. It may not help a lot, but it shouldn't hurt. And it could completely change the cooling dynamics of your M.2, which may be more to do with your airflow of your case than with the M.2 drive itself. It looks like they've even given us, not only did they give us an extra screw for the side, they've also given us an M.2 screw, just in case you lose your M.2 screw and it just happens to be the right size. But there are 3 mount points here. One, 2, and I am concerned about how much thicker this drive is going to be now with that fan in right there. It could prevent us from putting the lid back on, but we may not need the lid on. And in theory, might even be able to take that fan out entirely. But there's also lower profile heat sinks. There are some that's just a little sheet of metal, and that might be all it's going to take. But I'm just kind of curious what sort of difference we'll see on a live video where nothing is being manipulated and everything is real. And you can see in real time just how much time you should expect to have to invest if you want to follow along with something like this. It's very inexpensive, much cheaper than buying a new NVMe drive, if it'll fit. Now, I've had customers where these have made a difference, and I've had customers where they haven't. It's very much dependent on the drive and the case. But now, if I bring this up to the camera and show you, you remember what it looked like before. And now, there's the 3 screws I put in. That's the top that's sandwiched in to this U frame. There's the back of it. Make sure that everything makes that hole available to lock this down. And make sure that that end piece is sticking out so you can plug it back into the M.2 slot. So when I come back around here and I go to plug this back in, you're going to see it's going to stick up much higher, but I'm still going to use the same screw that held it in before. That doesn't change. If you lose it, they do give you a spare one. Now, you can see how much higher this stands up, and if I go to put this on now, it's not going to seat. However, out of curiosity, let's leave it like this and turn it on. And let's run that crystal disc mark just with that and forget that fan. Just out of curiosity, what's it going to do? Because this is super easy to take back off. So let's, it's already booted. Let's go full screen over here so Oz can seize. And we'll go over to Crystal Disc Mark Portable Edition to the 64-bit version. Hit the All button. Let's see what kind of numbers we get now. Remember, we don't have a fan blowing on it anymore. So will it be the same? Will it be better? Will it be worse? So we certainly get the gist that this thing is going to run at 3771 no matter what we do. That seems a little low to me, and it may be possible that this drive is not running up to the standards it's supposed to. I don't know. I have to look. I don't know if anybody's looked this up. Let's generate some heat and see if this bogs it down back to 2200 again, like it did before. Like, you know, we're right around 3700, which is just barely Gen 4. I mean, just by like 5% over Gen 3. And let's let this heat up. We're 5 of 5. And then we'll go over to the write speed here and we'll see what our write speed is. I'd imagine if it's going this slow, the write speed's probably going to be similar. And when I say slow, it's slow for Gen 4. Yeah, these are Gen 3 speeds on the right side, but these are Gen 4 speeds, just barely on the read side. But it's also possible heat is getting us right now. So to determine if it's heat, I'm going to stop and restart this test immediately and see if this number here falls into the 2000 range. If it's falling in the 2000 range, heat is getting to us and it's causing the drive to slow down. But look, it's staying up there. So with that heatsink, it's staving off all the heat because when I did this exact same test before, it got hot that fast. And that may indicate that we have a failing Kingston drive. Now, these Kingston drives are the only ones I've seen that will fail in this way. And it's not really a failure so much as it's not operating the way it's supposed to. If we look this model number up, I suspect it's probably a much better performing drive if we swapped it out with another Kingston drive. Let me see if I have another Kingston. Do I have another Kingston? I have a King spec. This came out of a mini PC from somebody. King spec 1 terabyte. So I'm kind of getting the gist that I think we might be dealing with a Kingston drive that is not operating properly. And unfortunately for me, I have seen a number of different mini PC manufacturers using these Kingston drives where the same exact Kingston drive runs at twice the speed or a good 30-40% more. And I sent one back to Paladin. I sent one back to Minis Forum. I've sent one back. Did I send it to Minis Forum? I sent one back to another manufacturer and they replaced it with the exact same drive and boom, it was fine. So there was something where the drive is working, but it's not working at the speed it's supposed to. So I have this generic King spec drive. All right. And just for the sake of experimentation, let's shut this down. And this back over here. I might have another Kingston drive to test, but let's not do that for right now. Just take my word on it. That Kingston drive is not running like it should, and I see this. This is the 4th time I've seen a Kingston drive do this. And it's not the manufacturer of the mini PC, it's the Kingston it's Kingston. It's causing this. And I don't know why nobody's talking about it, but now this is the 4th one. And if you hadn't asked this question, I wouldn't have figured this out yet. So what I'm going to do, just to make life simple, is I'm going to clone that Kingston over to whatever the heck this is, because I have no idea, but I'm assuming anything's better than what that is. And we'll just lock that bad boy in there. And then we'll run a Cronus and we'll tell it to clone from the first M.2 to the second M.2. Should be that easy. We'll use an Acronis rescue disk right here. And plug it in there, it's fine. Turn this on and go to, I don't know, delete something. Delete. There we go. Choose my boot option. Boot override. Now this is telling us we can boot to that NX1. But where's my USB boot? Oh, right there. Let's boot to that. And then let's use a Cronus and let's clone the Kingston to that King spec generic no-name brand. Because this is just a Windows install, it shouldn't take but like 3 or 4 minutes to do this. In fact, it'd probably take longer to boot to a Cronus than it will to clone it. And again, this is just unique to Kingston. I've never seen this happen with any other NVMe drive. Even NVMe drive companies I've never heard of. It's only Kingston that exhibits this behavior and only on some of their drives. And all I can tell you is when I send the drive back and I get a new one that looks exactly the same with the same model number, it performs much better. And they never tell me why. So I don't know, but it does seem like if I was a mini PC manufacturer, I would be staying away from Kingston. Let's clone, automatic. We're going to go from the Kingston drive. So I got to go full screen here so I can't see everything. Okay, so NVMe drive Kingston. Next. Oops, clone. The screen's just a little too big. Hold on. Let's do it like this. There, it's better. Automatic. From the Kingston. You'll see the Kingston's the same size as this NX, whoever makes that. Hey, we're almost at 2 hours here. I think I can wrap this up without going too far over my normal 2 hour time limit. That's self-imposed. That's going to be our target. Let's go. Do it. You know, you can get a discount on Acronis, by the way, for the rest of 2024. Our friends at Acronis are offering you 30% off and a free copy of Acronis Cyber Connect, the remote software, if you buy anything above the cheap version. In other words, there's like a home version, and then there's like a small business, and then there's like an enterprise. So if you buy anything but the cheap home version, not only will you get 30% off, but you'll get a free year of the Acronis Cyber Connect remote software. And we're going to review that in the future. I've never even seen it or played with it. I use Instant House Call, which of course you can get a discount on as well. And all of these programs have free trials if you wish to try them for yourself. This says it'll take about 5 minutes, but Acronis is always, I don't know, it went from 5 minutes to 3 minutes in the span of 30 seconds. I don't know what planet that their clock is on. Maybe a little something closer to the sun, but it's going to be fast. Look at that, all over a question about the NVMe. It took us right down a rabbit hole, but I'm glad it was asked. I don't remember who asked it, but I thank you for asking it, because these Kingston drives are known for this. And I don't have a problem with Kingston RAM, but I stay away from Kingston branded storage, whether it's USB, NVMe. If it says Kingston, I run from it. Now, when you order these machines, unfortunately, they're coming with Kingston. I'll have a talk with AceMagic about my experience with them and lead to some online resources, and they can decide if they want to keep that as their choice of storage provider. That's it. We're done. So with us being done, at this point, let me go back over to camera one for a second, because I want you to see what I do from this point forward. And that is simply that we're going to pull the power and shut this machine off. I'm going to take the Acronis rescue disk, set it back where I keep it, and then we're going to take the main NVMe drive out. But we don't have to move anything. Once we pull this out, we're going to be left with one bootable device, and that's that NX series drive. And I'm just going to leave it like that without the fan on it. Plug it back in and turn it back on, and it should look exactly like it just looked. So let's go back over to our HDMI input and see if it boots. I don't have to go into BIOS. I don't have to tell it anything. It should just work. I'm a king of simple. I love simple. And this should boot up and look exactly the same. There you go. See, time travel. It just ain't what it once is going to be. Now, if we look here, and let me go full screen on my side, we're going to run that Crystal Disk Mark test one more time. Remember, I don't know what this drive is. I'm pretty sure it's a Gen 4 drive that was generic, that it was included in, I don't know, somebody's mini PC. You guys can look through my content. You can tell me. But I'm just kind of curious what sort of numbers we'll get from a different manufacturer other than Kingston. That's still pretty low at 3570. That implies Gen 3. So the other thing I'm curious about is if both M.2 slots run at Gen 4 or not. So I'm going to stop this because I'm suspicious. I'm going to shut this down. And now I'm going to move this drive over to the slot to the left just to see if one slot is Gen 4 and one slot is Gen 3, because it doesn't seem like they're volunteering this information to us, or if they are, I've overlooked it, which, you know. And it doesn't say, oh, it does say, it says Gen 3 right on it. This was a bad example. All right, let's clone it again. I'll tell you what, this time we'll put it here. That's the thing about cloning. Unlike VHS tapes, when you copy them, each copy degraded. Let's not mess about. Let's go find ourselves a Gen 4 drive. And, you know, you can get a drive with a built-in heatsink. where it's going to be lower profile if you're concerned about it. But I don't really think it's necessary. I think it's just that Kingston drive. And I want to prove it. So let me look through my stack of drives and see what I've got. Because I've got a lot of drives I pulled from other machines. And the problem is a lot of them don't tell me if they're Gen 3 or Gen 4 unless I pull it brand new out of a box. Okay, all right, here's an idea. I have a Kingston drive that I pulled from another build. So just for fun, let me show you what I've got. And I can't remember why I pulled this. I don't know if this is another Kingston drive that potentially has issues, but it clearly says, oh, it's only a 256 gig drive. That's probably why I pulled it, because of capacity. Never mind. Let me find something. Gen 4, 1 terabyte. What do we have that's cheap? Oh, I've got stuff here. Let's see. Well, I have an open Samsung 980 Pro. That's 1 terabyte, Gen 4 NVMe. So speaking of Samsung, I just happen to have one open sitting on the parts bench. Let's clone over to the Samsung. We know Samsung's quality, but we also know they cost more. One goes with the other, you know? So let's do this real quick. Pop this bad boy in here, and then we're going to clone one more time. And we're going to see a performance difference. So in this case, I'm going to take back what I said about drive speed because the drive's not running at its proper speed. Something's wrong with that drive. But if it were running the way it's supposed to, why is this not launching? SanDisk Extreme. Maybe the Samsung has a boot on it. Let's see. It's possible that there was an operating system left on this 980. Yeah, it appears that way because now it's loading drivers. Obviously, we're not going to get the best performance without all the proper drivers installed, and a clone would be ideal. And the reason it wasn't booting from the SanDisk is I realized I just plugged my utilities flash drive into it, not my cloning flash drive. And so what we're looking at now is a different machine that was AMD based. But just for grins and giggles, without any drivers, how does that impact our drive performance? Let's see. Yeah, we're closer to 7,000 now. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to close all this out and I'm going to shut this down because that is the wrong driver setup. And I need to grab the proper flash drive because the utilities flash drive is not bootable. And then I'm going to plug it into the front, turn this back on, and then start hitting delete so I can go back in the BIOS. And this time, I'm going to go over to SanDisk right there. And now that should take us to Acronis. And we're going to clone from the NX to the Samsung. We'll take the NX out and we'll boot. And then everything will be the same and we can run our test one last time. So in that case, you know, that Kingston drive shouldn't be running that slow. That should have been around 5,000. Something's wrong with it. Just so you know. And to go from 5,000 to 7,000 isn't going to make much difference noticeable to a human being unless you have some very specific resource IO intensive tasks. For most of us, it wouldn't impact us. Would it be worth it to pull that Kingston out if it were running properly to upgrade it to a Samsung? I'd say no. For most people, no. Tools. We're going to go from the NX. God, Acronis makes this so simple. So much easier than having to do a complete reinstall and reloading all the drivers and redoing all the Windows updates. And in less time that it takes to reinstall Windows, I put everything back exactly the way it was. And we want to go to the NVMe drive, not to the USB flash drive for our clone. And it's going to erase what's on it. That's fine. Hit next. It's going to give us a preview of what the drive's going to look like, which I could care less. Obviously, it's going to look like the original. So go ahead and do it. And then this will just take a couple minutes. Time it if you want to, because the timer is completely wrong on Acronis. All right. Finally, after we do it 3 times, we should get it right. Just looking through the chat while we're waiting here. No, Samsungs are good NVMe drives. It's just that if I could buy this bare bones and put my own RAM and storage, I would use probably Crucial or Team RAM, likely Team. And then I would use Samsung, Western Digital, or Feijing or MoveSpeed for my drive. So I would have selected different RAM and different storage if I was the builder. But there's nothing, if this was running the way it should have been fine. But that's a Kingston problem. And it's universal across any device that uses Kingston. There's a number of drives, not all Kingston drives are impacted by it, but I've seen, this is now my 4th one with the exact same problem. So you can imagine how I feel about that. And again, feel free to time this clone. This is so much faster than installing Windows and drivers. So much faster. We're already done. So once again, just so you can see everything I'm doing, I'm going to go back over to camera 1, and I'm just going to pull the power. I'm going to take my Acronis flash drive and set it aside, and I'm going to pull this NX drive out, and I'm going to leave the Samsung right where it's at, because I believe both of these M.2s are likely both Gen 4, and it doesn't matter which one it's in, other than this fan cable might get in the way. So we're just going to leave it there for now. In fact, I'll just leave this just like that. Let's plug it back in. If I can find the power, there we go. Turn that on, and then we're going to switch back over. And let's see it boot. If we did everything right, it should look exactly the same as it did. We're only 9 minutes over so far, and we've cloned twice in those 9 minutes. And I'm just kind of curious, even without that fan blowing on top of the Samsung, if we can repeat any heat-related issues, or if that's primarily being caused by something being wrong with that Kingston drive. So let's go over here to Dismark. Let's see what it does. In the meantime, if you have any final questions, we're going to wrap it up after this. I might just keep that Samsung 980 in there because look at the difference. I will reach out to AceMagic and see what they want to do about this bad Kingston drive and make them aware, because they probably don't know, that this has been an ongoing problem with Kingston, in my experience, and only Kingston. And that if they replace it with another Kingston, it'll probably be fine. Maybe. But if they replace it with like pretty much any manufacturer, even ones I've never heard of, they'll likely be fine, much more so than the Kingston will. Because they could replace the Kingston with another Kingston that has the exact same problem. And around the wheel goes until you get a good one. The good news for me is, I think there was a Paladin, and I think there was a Geekom, and we were testing them before we did the review. And the Kingston drives were bad. Bad in the sense they worked, but when you measured them, they were running at half of the speed they were supposed to. And that's exactly what this is doing. And in all those cases, replacing the Kingston drive with another one solved it. And I think if you go back and look at the Geekom, was it the Mini 12? The Mini IT 12 is one that I think we had that problem with, and I talked about that at length. And I think we're seeing the exact same problem here. That doesn't mean if you get a Kingston drive, it's bad. It just means that some of them are. And I don't know what's making them bad. I don't know if they were somehow part of the same batch or, no idea. Now, bear in mind, as we're testing this, I've got no active cooling over this NVMe drive right now. It's just open to the air. In all fairness, if we put the cover back on with the fan running on it, it should run even better. But I'm just kind of curious just to see what it'll do bare before I put the feet back on. And then with regards to the heatsink that I put on the Kingston, that's coming off because that's a waste of a good heatsink that I can use on something else that can appreciate it. Let me take a quick look in the chat room. According to Kingston website, their Gen 4 NVMe performance with speeds up to 3,500 and 2,800. That's Gen 4 though. Those are Gen 4 speed. Those are Gen 3 speeds. That's not Gen 4. So I don't know what's Kingston smoking, but if you take a Gen 3 drive that runs at 3,500 read and 2,800 write, and you say it's a Gen 4 drive, it will run in a Gen 4 drive. But anything under 3,600 is Gen 3 speeds, okay? NetFreak wants to know what's your experience with Kingston USB sticks. They suck. They're terrible. They're slow. They're cheap made, flimsy plastic. I use SanDisk. I use Team Group. I use AData. I do not use Kingston because I find them to be crap. The problem is Kingston does make some good ones, but I can't tell you what they are. Kingston is mixed their budget line and their high-end line together where you can't tell them apart anymore. So which Kingstons are the good ones and which Kingstons are the bad ones, it's anybody's guess. If I buy the SanDisk Extreme, I know exactly what I'm getting. And if you watch any of my videos, you show me when you ever see me use a Kingston drive other than to review it and tell you how terrible it is. The flimsy nature of these Kingston drives is so disgusting, and they want top dollar for them. And I've never felt more ripped off than by Kingston. So that's my personal feeling. I am not a fan of Kingston. And when it comes to building computers, you do not see me ever using Kingston parts.
Hello, everybody. I made it.
Welcome in. Just in time for close-up work. So I'll give you an example just briefly before we go, since we're waiting on this to finish. Let me go back over to camera one here. You kind of get a gist of the difference in performance there, right? If we go back over to camera one, I've had this set aside because I wanted to warn you about it. And I never did make a video on this. But this is the Kingston Data Traveler Max, and it's considered one of their high-end $100 drives. Now for $100, I can get a SanDisk drive that's smaller, better built, and faster, and doesn't heat up as fast and slow down like this one does. This is a level of cheap that reminds me of a generic Bic lighter. As if a Bic lighter, a disposable lighter, wasn't cheap enough. You know there are generic ones that are even cheaper, and they feel like you could crush them in your hand. That's what this feels like. Now, if this were priced for $40, that'd be a different story. But this was considered flagship, high-end, best you could buy. Now, let me give you an example. Take this. You decide. Let me set this one down. When I open this, there's a magnet that grabs it and locks it in. It's a solid piece of plastic. Solid. When that's, you can't push that back in. There's a little bit of pressure you put down here. And the magnet assists it in extraction and retraction. I want you to compare it to this piece of garbage. This is a very thin Pez-like dispenser piece of trash where what they've done is they figured out that you can take this little holder and slide this inside of this outer shell, which is just completely cheap. Yeah. Whoops. I guess you're supposed to be able to just grab this top half and slide it through the bottom half. It is, if it would dispense little Pez candies, I would say it's built on that level of quality. You ever had a Pez dispenser? You know what a Pez dispenser is? That's what this feels like. It's just the cheapest piece of crap. And let me plug it in here and show you how it performs, because this was their flagship, right? It's USB Type-C. That's pretty fancy. So let me plug it in right here to the USB-C on the front of this AceMagic, and then let's go back over there. And since we've got the Crystal Diskmark software open, can we switch it? Let's close it and reopen it. I think, are we there? Let's see. Yeah, there's the Kingston drive. So let's back to Crystal Diskmark. Let's pick that Kingston drive. I won't bore you with anything but the top two numbers. Those are your fastest speeds, right? This is USB-C, top of the line. What numbers do you expect? I think it should be at least 1,000. I'd say 1,000. Give me 1,000. My SanDisks will give me 1,000. The little SanDisk I just showed you will give me about 500. And we should have got numbers by now. So this is already not right. This was expensive. This was $100 for this 1 terabyte drive. And I'm getting nothing out of it right now. We'd already be having our numbers on the SanDisk. It's stupid. Why would you charge me this kind of money? Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We're getting somewhere. This is how they advertise it. This is supposed to do 1,000. But here's the problem. It won't maintain it. This drive is going to get really, really hot. It's already pretty warm. So, well, that's fine on the Crystal Diskmark test. The minute we switch over to H2 test W, as this drive heats up, you're going to see those numbers dwindle. So, in my opinion, this drive is built under really terrible quality with the housing. Look at how it's already heated up. Look at what's happened in just that little period of time. And just to be sure it's a heat-related problem, well, it's still hot. Let's start over again. And let's see what this number is. It doesn't take long for it to get hot. And as soon as it gets hot, it'll start running within a matter of minutes slower than a mechanical USB drive. So that's how I feel about Kingston. So maybe the issue isn't a heat-related problem in this case. Right now, maybe what we're seeing is just a very terrible write speed. Or it cooled off enough. I'm not sure, but it's not consistent, it's not reliable, and it's not well built. And if it was cheap, if it was like 20 bucks, 30 bucks, 40 bucks, I could dismiss it. But for $100, and this is the max, this is the best one, this is their flagship, or it was, their definition of good is very different from everybody else's. That's all I can say. So, if we could maintain 1,000 throughout the entire write cycle, I'd be impressed. But there's no good heat dissipation on a cheap plastic case. So if you're only writing little files, it'll move them. But then why do you need a 1 terabyte drive if all you're doing is moving little files? So if we take something like H2 test W, right? H2 test W. And this is a great way that you can test your external drives, because it's really about sustained writes. It's not about copying 1 or 2 files. You can do that with a smaller drive. If you want a big drive, you probably want it because you're moving a bunch of stuff. So if we just grab this free application, let's open it and extract it. And you can all follow along and do this on, like a mechanical drive will keep the same speed. It'll lock it in. But when you're dealing with flash memory, or NAND memory, even an M.2 drive, you can see what happens as it heats up. So we run this and put it in English right here, and then we're going to select the target drive to be our Kingston drive here. Click OK, and let it just write data across the entirety. Oops, try that again. Okay. And write and verify. Now, there's going to be a slight size difference. That's normal and nothing to worry about. But what you want to watch is look how good the write speed is right now on this. You'd look at that and you'd say, Carey, I don't know what you're complaining about. I mean, that thing is moving pretty good. That's moving as good as your, no, it's not. It's at 299 megabytes a second. So what we're looking at, that top number is how many megabytes it's written. So right now it's at 6,000 megabytes written. It's estimating it's going to take 52 minutes to fill this drive up. But watch that 298 megabytes right at the bottom, because as it continues to write, the drive continues to get hotter. And as it continues to get hotter, that 300 megabyte speed is going to drop. And the time remaining is going to start moving in the other direction. And it'll take about somewhere around 200 megs written, and you're going to see this plummet like a rock. Now, if this was only a 300 gig drive, you probably wouldn't know any difference. But because we're 3 times that size, we're going to get 3 times the degradation as it heats up. And to me, that's not a flagship product. To me, the whole point of having a 1 terabyte drive is to be able to copy 1 terabyte to it. If I'm only copying little tiny files, I don't need a big drive. I can save money buying a cheaper drive. So right now we're maintaining that 298. But rest assured, so right now we're at 26,000 megabytes, 26 gigs are written. Wait till this hits somewhere around 200 gigs, and we're about a fifth or a third of the way through writing on this drive. And that 52 minutes is going to become 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours. And you're like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. And if you'd have just bought the SanDisk version of the Extreme, it would finish and be done in less time. You could do 2 SanDisk drives, maybe even 3, before this Kingston will be done. So how do I feel about Kingston? What do you think? I'm going to just leave this up here so you can witness it. But as you can imagine, it's not the most riveting video to watch. But you can already see the speeds dripping. They're already dropping. We're now down to 260 and going down. We are heading in a downward trend after 35 gigs of sustained writes, and it continues to deplete. Now, once we hit below 120, then a mechanical drive is already faster than us. And the mechanical drive will start out slower, but it will maintain that speed through the 1 terabyte write, and therefore the tortoise is faster than the hare. This is a tortoise versus hare story, and this is Kingston. So you watch that number now, we're at 229, 228, 227, 226. Every single time it writes, it's getting slower, and the time remaining is growing. And we're only at 37 gigs of 1,000. Think about this. This is their flagship. This is the max. This is what Kingston proudly puts its name on as their top of the line product. I'm just saying. Just saying. You're witnessing it, right? You guys do see this. And so, for me personally, no Kingston. If Kingston comes with a mini PC, it's typically fine. However, in this case today, it wasn't. The RAM seems fine, although I haven't run memtest on it. I've never had a problem with Kingston RAM. But the Kingston NVMe drives have been a constant pain in my butt because it keeps me from getting things done. I have to keep going backwards and getting a drive replaced before I can move forwards, which is what I wanted to do when I got the product. It's holding me back and it's slowing me down and it's preventing me from moving on to other projects. So I would rather just get something decent right out of the gate because it'll save me money in the long run. So once again, we go back here and just continue to watch the degradation of this drive as it continues to go slower and slower and slower. And, you know, we're down to 170. We're almost at half the write speed we were when we started this test just a couple minutes ago. That's pathetic, disgusting, embarrassing, humiliating, and shameful. That's Kingston, in my opinion. All right. That's going to be it for us for today. And just know if you buy like a SanDisk Extreme drive, there's other well-made drives out there that can sustain the write cycle. And this H2 test W is your evidence of it. You can run it on memory cards, hard drives, any storage, and it can verify capacity just in case you think maybe you got ripped off and you bought an 8 terabyte drive for 25 cents on AliExpress. Gee, I wonder if it's real. This will verify it's not real. And it can also verify, if it's supposed to be a terabyte, that it does write a terabyte. But at what speed will it, eventually slow down to? And that's what differentiates the $20 drive from the $100 drive when they appear to be the same capacity. Build quality, performance, it's your money and it's your time. For me, I prioritize my time. I got work to do. I got stuff. I got people waiting. I don't have time to save $40, or in this case, save me maybe $20 compared to the SanDisk 1 terabyte. And the SanDisk is much better built and it's much faster. That's it. Okay. I think that's going to wrap it up. Let me just quickly, let me look in the chat real quick and check the phone real quick. And we're going to say goodbye. I don't see anything from you guys. Craig Lilly became a supporter, right on. Looks like Craig's been a supporter for a while. He's got a 12 badge. And Ben Laird says, got to give Carey 5 stars for persistence. The difference between a hobbyist and a professional. Yeah, well, what can I tell you? Customers are cruel. If you don't get the job done right the first time and quickly, they're going to not pay you and they're going to let somebody else do the job. If you want to stay in business, you have to keep moving at a fast pace and you've got to do it right the first time. And if you screw it up, you better fix it quickly or you're going to lose the customer forever. And that could be, how much money over time could that one customer could have paid you? Hard to say, but yeah. My thanks to the folks over at AceMagic for sending us the unit and giving us this opportunity to share this exclusive first look at it, with the exception of the Kingston drive, which isn't their fault. I'm really impressed by it, and I can't wait to see what these NPUs can do. Hey, I think a good test here on the new build we did. That's the AMD 7950X3D. And I'm just kind of curious why my tablet is buffering. It's very strange. Very strange. Time to reboot the tablet, I suppose, because it looks like everything's fine on this side. We're broadcasting. Throughout today's broadcast, we've had a couple of drop frames, but I've also increased the bit rate. I don't know if you guys noticed any difference in video quality. I've almost doubled the bit rate because OBS on this machine said you should be at 10,000, not 6,500. Okay, we'll try it. Is it better? Is it worse? Does it look exactly the same? No idea. Thanks, of course, to Mara for the thumbnail and all the video notes. And thanks to all our membership renewals there from Mark Gaines, Abdul Azim Patel, Zach Bischoff, Alaj Depej, Luke Greenia, as well as Craig Lilly and Mortant1210. Thank you for the super chats from Peter VZ, Carol N, Nick Caffrey, Planet Cryos, and Ben Laird. Thanks, you guys, for helping to support this channel so we can remain independent and give true opinions, whether you agree with them or you don't. That's what an opinion is. And at least I'm sharing with you how I'm coming to these opinions. And you might be a little more understanding or more forgiving where I am not in things of performance and value. because I'm buying hundreds and thousands. And so $1 makes hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of difference. But let me just look one more time here that this tablet's rebooted. I want to make sure that I am no longer buffering over just in time that I can say goodbye, right? It's another problem and I can't let it go until I have it resolved. 5. Here we go. And is it going to load now? It's really slow. There it goes. Okay. I think maybe if I look on which Wi-Fi network I'm on, it'd be, no, good network. So what's happening on the tablet is that the live is coming through the chat, but the video, I'm just getting a rotating circle. So that's probably something on the network here. So that's interesting. And OBS says I am broadcasting and everything is good. So I suspect it's either my Wi-Fi here or, and I could try switching my Wi-Fi. Let's see. Turn on Wi-Fi. And well, see, now it's connecting me. But I'm still getting a video buffer. Let me try. Just for grins. This is probably something I need to do off. Something's happening on the Wi-Fi here that's very strange. Remember, there's 2 Wi-Fi networks here in Studio B, and I'm on the slow secondary. But the slow secondary one still has a 2.4 gig channel and a 5 gig channel. Let's see. I'm just curious if switching it to the 2.4G will make any difference. Because I got to know. I have to know. It's not. That is weird. That is really strange. Try. One last thing. Let's close it all out. Close. Close. Close, 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 close everything. Reopen YouTube. No. So when I open YouTube, it just took me right back where I was. And I wanted it to reload. Quality is a 1080p. Play. Another problem for another day, apparently. That should have fixed it. The live chat's coming through, but the video, I'm just getting a circle. And yet OBS says everything's fine. The YouTube ingest server's taking everything. So I'm assuming everybody can see me. I just can't see me. It's very strange. So I guess I'm the lucky one. Oh, we've got all the information on this unit available in the video notes below the video. And I can't wait to give you some examples of what having a neural processing unit does versus not having one when we utilize software that has NPU enhancements. I assure you, you're probably going to want one. And we're just now getting our first taste of it. It's only getting better from here. So yeah, my video just updated for like 3 seconds and it stopped again. Something's happening over here. It's really bugging me. I'm going to turn my quality down to 240p. I wonder if it's it's not helping. What are you going to do? All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. That'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for the contributions, your membership. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And remember, tomorrow we do our members only videos every Monday. It's at 1 o'clock Phoenix time, which is now 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. And if you're a member, I hope you'll join us for that. Then I try to do a video on Tuesday for the public and a video on Friday for the public, all starting at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays, Saturdays and Sundays, it just kind of, if the opportunity exists, I'll grab it. I still have a lot of work I have to do here. This is all just temporary as I'm rearranging everything here in Studio B, trying to do a little spring cleaning. All right, guys, that'll wrap it up for me for today. Thanks again to our friends at AceMagic. I'll follow up with you on this whole Kingston situation. Hopefully we'll get an answer from them in that regard, maybe a replacement drive, or maybe we can convince them to use a different brand, like literally anyone but Kingston. What a shame that that's holding this whole system back. That'll wrap it up for me. I'll see you all very, very soon. Thank you, Mara.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye for now. Bye.